Just cut on the audio for a second. They can hear us. Testing 1, 2, 3. Like, share. Oh, we're in. That was 30 seconds. We are live.
So I just realized if we had done the show last week, we would have done our 20th show.
I know, right? Josepha, welcome to the show. All right, and here we are. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Jawn, episode 20. 20. Woohoo! I'm Nathan Moore, your host. This is my father, Steve Moore.
How are you?
And Kyle Hogg.
Howdy.
And I got the chats here in my hands, so wherever you're watching from, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, we will see your chats here, and we'll probably need you because we don't know what we're talking about. Good to see you, Heather. Welcome to the show, Elijah's Archive, and yeah. So what are we going to talk about?
Well, I don't know.
We decided we have to start with something boring to give people a chance to share the link and log in. A lot of live streams start with a few-minute wait screen, but we like to jump right in. But at the same time, we want to pace ourselves so we don't say anything too good yet.
It's going to be at least 6 minutes before I say anything worth hearing.
That's the plan.
That's what I think we're trying to accomplish.
Should I tell my story about the ring then?
Yeah.
Okay. Before y'all were invited into the room, we were discussing Mr. Moore sleeping on my porch when he gets tired, and he wanted to know if I had a way to see if anybody was at my house. And about a year ago, I mean, I have nobody to tell stories to before this, so I just tell people at work. So I was at home one day, and there's a knock at the door, and usually I just sit real still, hoping nobody will know I'm in there, because I don't want everyone else to know who it is. So knock, I open the door, and there's two women standing there, and they're like, "Hey, can we come in?" And I was like, yeah, I guess so. So and then they go, "We know who you are." And I was like, "Oh, you do?" And they said, "Yeah, people have been saying you're back in town." And I'm looking at them like, man, I don't know who these people are. So they came in, and one of them introduced themselves, and I didn't know her. And then the other one goes, "You know me too, you know me too." And so we were just talking, and then I was like, I don't know who you are. You know, you guys give me some type of clue who you are. So I finally figured out who they were, and they just hung out for like an hour or whatever. Then
Who were they?
People I went to school with, like in high school with. And so I went to work, and I said, man, I had a weird thing. That's why these two ladies just came over. Then they were saying, we'll get together, we'll go do some wine tours or something. And I was like, oh, this is so weird. But so anyway, I told somebody at work, and they told my boss. And like 2 days later, she brings this ring system, like, I don't want you letting people into your house anymore. So my boss paid for it. And like I said, I'm no fixer-upper, so I was like, great, now I got something I don't even know how to set up. So I just threw it down. And then she kept saying, "Did you get the ring up?" And I was like, no. Then she goes, "Well, I'm going to come to your house and put it on." My boss was going to come put it on for me. So I called my brother in a panic. "You need to come to Stanton quick and get this ring set up." So now due to two strange ladies coming to my house, I have a way to keep track of what's going on.
So you got it on your phone?
Yeah, like when it goes up, it rings, and I can watch a video of who comes up.
Can you go there right now and see what's going on?
I can, but I think he pushed the button, so the battery must be dead, because it's not.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess we shouldn't say that out loud. His defenses are down, ladies.
I live in Waynesboro, near the hospital.
That's pretty cool. The ring thing is it's a whole source for YouTube and Twitter and stuff like that now.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
There's so much content on social media now look what this ring cam picked up.
And it's so to recharge, you have to just unscrew it and plug it in. But I'm just so lazy, I never even do that. I'll wait till
Have you had any incidents like when you've been at work and It rings and there's a suspicious character.
Well, sometimes it'll ring. There's nothing there, and that always worries me.
Squirrels.
That's one time I did see a squirrel go by.
Squirrels have learned to do that.
Ringing bells all over town.
Crows will do it.
The scariest thing is when it goes off at night, like 2 o'clock in the morning. Like I always have my phone with me, and I'm like, when it goes off, your phone like makes an alarm.
Is it motion activated, or do they have to
Yeah.
ring it?
It's motion activated, and then it takes as long as they're up there moving around, it films them that amount of time. But at night when it goes off, and I'm always like, have they gotten in yet? So looking, I'm trying to I don't want them to see if they're in here. I don't want them to see I'm looking at them. I seen you on video. Ah!
We have Percy, so that's
right.
our old school front porch security system.
Yeah, when I had
He's pretty thorough.
when I had the 4 dogs, that's all I needed. But now I've got to rely on technology.
Amy Davey, welcome to the show. Good to see you. So I've been doing a daily headline news show. Highly recommended viewing. You guys should check it out.
How does it work?
So I wake up in the morning and I make my coffee.
Now, when you say I wake up in the morning, give me some numbers.
Well, I'm still a night owl. I go to bed as the sun comes up. When the birds start chirping in the morning, I'm like, oh, I better start making my way to bed. So I usually wake up anywhere between 1 and 4 in the afternoon, depending on when I get to bed.
So morning, when you say morning, that's a lie.
It's sort of a lie.
Yeah,
That's why the name of the show is Surly in the Morning Afternoon News.
I hear you.
So it's my first cup of coffee, but it allows, things to happen for me to talk about. If I got up bright and early like everybody else, I'd be reading the day before's headlines. So I'm actually there in the middle of the news day. And so then I come down here with my first cup of coffee and I go live and I hit a drum roll and I bring up the news headlines and so everybody hears my first reaction. If something exciting happens, you actually get to hear my natural reaction to the big headline of the day, which I know was fun for Kethra earlier in the week. She was like, oh, I'm going to have to tune in for this one. I want to see what he says to this headline. So there is that. There's a part of me that knows it'd be better for business if I could just say every day at 3 and advertise it that way. But I feel like then I would wake up at 1 and I would just be pacing around for 2 hours, trying not to look at the headlines,
Right.
and I would lose some energy and all that. Or I would wake up late, or I'd have to set my alarm. So I'm trying to just keep it easy on myself as I find my legs with the whole concept. But it's if you watch it, you never see me. It's a cartoon version of me.
I saw that.
Reading.
That sounds like a lot of work, the cartoon, because you have to put the words and move the mouth, right?
Well, it's a cool software that.
You don't have to do that?
It uses my webcam, and the microphone hears my voice and moves the lips.
So you
with
don't
my
have to.
voice.
Well,
So it's
there you
actually a webcam is like when you see the cartoon moving back and forth, it's actually my actual head in the room that's making that happen. It's pretty neat
go.
technology.
It's way beyond me. I don't.
It's
So
going to get
you're a
better and better.
cartoon?
I got him dancing. And
You are a cartoon?
I'm a cartoon.
You wrote a song about
Yeah, I
that.
wrote a song
That
about
we have today's song.
that. We might have today's song.
See,
have I not done that one?
It always leads. It always starts off and ends with the song.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Have I done like a cartoon on the show?
I don't know. Not on this show.
I felt like I meant to one day, but then I got inspired by the conversation to call an audible.
Well, we have our thing here.
Magpie in the house. Oh, cool. Magpie and Beans are together tie-dyeing and listening to the show. Good to see you both.
yeah.
Welcome.
Hi.
Jerry Springer passed away today. That was the big headline today.
I saw
That's
that.
so sad.
Mm-hmm.
He was so important to our culture.
He was the mayor of Cleveland, wasn't he?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
The mayor of Cincinnati.
And the mayor of Trash TV. But one thing that a lot of people don't know about Jerry Springer is that he was a huge music fan and had a radio show, I think in Cincinnati. And I actually had several friends that performed. He was a real supporter of grassroots music, loved a good song, and was very knowledgeable, surprisingly knowledgeable about music, and very supportive of
I didn't know
up and
that.
coming songwriters and stuff.
Was that
just-
I was surprised by that. I was like, wait, are we talking about the same guy? And like, yeah, I did Jerry Springer's radio show.
was WKRP in Cincinnati based on him?
And I think that timing is off. WKRP in
Now,
Cincinnati.
did he have a catchphrase on his show?
That's a good question. Break it up. I tried to I was like, all right, let's go on YouTube and look at like highlights from the Jerry Springer show. And I was looking for just a good compilation. But then there was a lot of videos I could have clicked on, but they were all just fights.
So he was like he didn't do like the babies and all that stuff, did he?
There was one.
You're the father. Or
No,
whatever.
wait.
Who was that
I feel
guy?
like he did stuff like that, but he wasn't that Maury.
Oh, well, yeah,
Was-
Maury
was
Povich
the-
or whatever.
The pregnancy test
Yeah.
angle. And Jerry recently, I never saw it, but I'll have to go back and watch now. He tried Judge Jerry. He had one of those Judge Judy People's Court on TV. I mean, I guess anybody can do that.
I guess
You don't have
so.
to have a law degree or whatever to be a judge on TV, as long as the people agree to let you be the arbiter.
God.
That could be an extension of this show someday when we have offshoots.
You know, Johnny Lydon, Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols.
Oh, yeah.
He was on like Judge Judy or something. He sued somebody.
And agreed to do it on Judge Judy.
I'm not sure it was Judge Judy, but it was one of those stupid shows.
I like Judge Judy. People's Court was a whole thing back in the day. Who was that guy? What was his name?
Judge Wapner.
I knew you'd know it.
We'd rush home from work to watch that. Bringing down the law with Judge Wapner. Man. And that he was only 79, right? Jerry.
I didn't actually read the cause of death. At that age, you just assume it's...
Yeah. Violence.
Right?
You are the father. No, I'm not. I'll kill you for saying that.
Silas says People's Court had an amazing theme song. It did. I can't sing it, but I can hear it in my dun dun dun
Oh,
dun. Dun. I can't do it. Steve Harvey got his own judge show. That I'll watch.
Oh my gosh. Is that new or come and gone?
Yeah, is that a current thing? Huge Steve Harvey fan. He's resurrected Family Feud, one of my favorite game shows of all time.
Have you seen those clips where Richard Dawson was on there just totally grossing out, kissing all those women?
He kissed every single
my God.
woman on
I'm
the lips.
I was surprised they didn't vomit. I was like, sometimes he's just going in like way too hard. Like, oh my God, leave the people.
You remember that?
Vaguely.
Vaguely. Yeah, that was the whole thing. Richard Dawson.
But Steve Harvey's got he's brought like the slightly dirty stuff into it now. Like the questions are so leading to dirty answers. It's
That was always the case. Whoopee or whatever. Like the innuendo,
Oh, yeah.
the amount of innuendo in daytime game
Right.
shows is so funny. From the Newlywed Game to making whoopee. But yeah, you got those questions that they ask that are just there to make the contestant
Right.
squirm and say something. And how are they going to phrase this?
I was watching a video clip one time of Hollywood Squares with Paul Lynde, and I don't even know if they let these answers he gave air. I mean, I was just cracking up laughing for like half an hour, but I cannot believe in the 70s or 80s they let. It must have been something he said, and they edited it out and made him say something else. But I was like, oh my God, they can't let this stuff. And if they did, people were probably like, oh my God. My dad would have like thrown the remote control through the TV.
Now I know you're a big Jeopardy. That's your game show.
Yes, but I don't do it like when you talk about your shows. Those are more entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there for the questions and the answers and
Right. The
know,
actual intellectual
not
aspect
there for
of
the
it.
personalities involved or the
Did you ever like any other game show?
game shows. Well, I watched some of them, Password and things like that.
Yeah, Password's a good one.
Afternoon games, but I didn't really feel a great affinity to any of them too much. What's My Line that was like a nighttime one.
Yeah.
Didn't have that was good. Or Dorothy Kilgallen. That's a great name.
Dorothy Kilgallen.
She was one of the
Wow.
people that judged. They had 4 people on. Is it What's My Line? And that wasn't What's My Line.
Are you talking about the old
Whose
black
line
and white
is it
one?
anyway?
No, that was a good
That
show.
was like improv.
Yeah.
Well, they had to guess who you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
yeah. Well,
that was a long time ago.
yeah, where they have different people.
Yeah.
My name is. They have 3.
Oh, right.
The 3 people came out.
Will the real blah blah
Yeah.
blah
Yeah.
please stand up?
Yeah, my name is Tutti Frutti.
Right.
I used to work with a guy that was on Wheel of Fortune,
Oh wow.
and this was just like a couple of years ago. And you can't say how you do. Like you have to sign a contract. You can't say how you do.
Non-disclosure agreement.
And I'm sure he wished he could have, because they had a party for him. They rented out a bar, and they showed the thing on the TV. He gave the worst answer of all time. I mean, the clue was so obvious. It was like, cat and dog, and he's like cat and dig. It's just so wrong, and everybody in there is like laughing at him. I'm sure he's like, why did I even tell anybody it was on the show? It was like, oh my God, what's wrong with this guy that he got it? And he was just standing there, and everybody in the bar was laughing.
It's so easy at home for us
I
to
know,
judge,
I
but
know.
we don't realize you get under the lights and you're in there and your heart's pounding out of your
it
chest.
happened. It happened today or yesterday. I was watching. I'll watch the daytime Jeopardy too. But I mean, you got one guy with 28,000, one guy with 18,000, and you have this short little man. The third guy's there with minus 1,200, and then the guy Ken Jennings at the end says, "We're really sorry you can't stay with us, but you have to go down there." And you have to hide in the closet while we do this. And then we'll let you come back out right at the end. But we're not going to talk to you for a little while. I mean, how embarrassing is that? Then you have the show and, I was on Jeopardy. I lost $1,800. They wouldn't even talk to me afterwards. That hurts my feelings for them.
Oh my God.
You ever attended a live taping of any show on TV?
No, but that's another funny story. There was a guy I used to work. I worked at a record store for a while, and this guy, it was like a musical. He knew everything about every music in the world. And I was too ignorant to listen to what he said. Like he would tell me about bands. This was back when when CDs were coming along. So they had these things called cutout albums, where they just put like a slice in the cover, and if it was whatever albums were back then, $8, they were like $1. So the factories were just trying to get rid of records, just because they were CDs. And he'd go, "You should get this, you should get this, you should get this." I'm like, I'm not listening to you. Now, older I am, I'm like, oh my God, if I just bought that album, But anyway, just a wonderful guy. Just he would he used to make cassettes. You'd write like Elvis Presley, Blue Moon. He would write Elvis Presley, Blue Moon, recorded 1954 with, he had like your tape.
Annotated.
Yeah, it was like he had to add paper to it so it'd be hanging down like all this stuff.
I love that.
But he went to see David Letterman one time.
Oh yeah.
And just out of the blue, they zeroed in on him and made some like rude, demeaning remark about like the way he looked. And man, it crushed him. It really hurt his feelings. And I was like, man, that'd be me if I went to some show. They'd say, "We gotta get a camera on
look
this
at this
doofus
guy."
over here." Oh man, we're gonna tear that guy to shreds.
First time in the city, sir.
You gotta go stand in that closet where you owe us $18,000.
You owe us.
Do you know where you are? Are you really supposed to be here?
Well, that's what they said, something like that about him.
Yeah.
Oh, and he was just
Did
not
somebody
smiling.
bring you? Are you here alone?
Who's in charge of this?
Charlie Over? Oh my God, he was a genius.
Oh, that's sad.
You would love Charlie. If he came down here, he'd be able to play all these instruments too. He was just like an amazing.
Silas had a friend that was on Wheel of Fortune and won like $25,000.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. She got picked to play the final puzzle and got it.
Wow. Yeah, I don't watch Wheel of Fortune. I watch Vanna walk across the stage.
She has found the secret to immortality.
She's still doing it?
Yeah. I always.
They both have. It's surreal because it was them two when I was a child, and I'm not a young man. And I just, you cut it on, and it's like Pat Sajak, Vanna White, just eerie. Elite immortality, the blood of infants or something is involved.
It's a spinning wheel. It just keeps the blood circulating.
Right.
All that.
Or maybe they taped all of these 25 years.
Right, there you go. That's
They
smart.
did a whole year. of
They got a
taping.
whole 100 years
What
worth.
kind of dress are you going to wear in 2022?
Right, anticipating fashion trends and everything.
Truth is, her dresses are the same. I mean, they're not related to the common fashions of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all specially made.
Trendsetter.
Yeah.
Now, does she have they upped her role at all? Does she ever talk or anything, or is she still just?
They talk occasionally. She has established that she does have a personality and can talk, but on a normal night, no. I don't. Yeah, I think that's her choice. I think it's not she can't do it, but she knows how to walk across the stage. I think we can all learn something from that.
Poise.
Yeah.
Poise is the word that comes to mind.
I used to practice after I'd watch her. I'd try to walk across the kitchen floor.
Josh, welcome to the show. He says Pat and Vanna were the inspiration for the Benjamin Button movie. Danny Morris, look at that.
Look
Good
at
to
him.
see you.
Hey, Danny.
How's the fishing out there? Are they biting? When is trout season? Can you?
Well, trout season
Is it year-round? Can
It
you
doesn't
always do
go
it?
off, but there are definite times when they stock. Like they take the summer is not trout season because the water gets too warm.
Where are they?
So,
What,
but
what,
you
they just
still-
not biting, or
Pretty much, they stock trout in rivers that are too warm for them in the summer, but they're figuring they're all getting caught out. So they're not. It's all put and take. They're not trying to populate the species or anything.
right? Which is fascinating,
now
right? Has
there's-
that evolved in your lifetime? Like,
That's the way in the 50s. The stocking program was. It was all about meat fishing.
so it's
all
always
about-
been that way.
The
sort of.
Game Commission was established, and the rivers. Yeah, it all grew. I don't know the history of it, but there's always been a stocking program. When it's just a special part of the Division of Game and Inland Fisheries, but they have their own places. What do you call a place where they raise fish?
Hatchery.
They have their own hatcheries, and it's pretty elaborate. They spend a lot of money on that, but then they make money on the
And
license.
do they always advertise where they're going to stock and when, or do they try to
they
do
have
some
a-
on the download to make it interesting?
They used to. Now they put it out every day at 4:00 where they've been. And they have a phone.
wow.
They have a phone number and a website, and you can go and see. So if you can go out to Lake Tams one day, and there'll be 2 people there. Adam be carp
Adam would be one of
Adam
them.
be carp fishing, but then you go out the next morning, go walk over there, and there'll be 100 people there. Literally, 100 people work there, and that's because they stocked that evening.
Wow.
They come in there, and I've been there when they stocked, and they just throw them in, and people start fishing immediately. And but it doesn't. They get caught out pretty quickly.
It's a little weird, isn't it? That dynamic of the.
Yeah, it is.
You're
very,
not really
it-
hunting. If
There-
you did that with any other animal, you'd be like, "That's strange." Well, they loosed some deer in Craigsville today, like in a penned in
Yeah,
like a
It- it-
safari hunt or something.
yeah. Well, it's totally different than anything else that they're doing. But and part of it's just this trout are just such a wonderful fish, and trout aren't natural. The only trout we have that's native to here are the little native brook trout up in the mountain streams. Well, in the summertime they don't get warm enough so the fish can live up there. But these lower streams in the valley, like Middle River, and they get too warm, so trout don't live there normally. But you'll put them in there, and if you put them in the fall, so they start stocking in September, and they stock during the winter, but they don't stock in the summer. And so, like at Lake Tams, from I don't know what the rules are now, but a lot of places like Lake Tams, which is our local pond here, they stock it. They might stock one more time. What does it say? They might stock in May, but a lot of times if it gets warm, they just stop, and they don't stock all summer. But during the summer, you can fish it without a trout license.
Ah,
At least you used to be able to, because you weren't trout fishing then. You were fishing for carp or whatever, catfish or whatever. But they aren't qualifying that as a trout stream during the summer. But in
so
the
you
fall,
don't need a license just to throw a pole in over there?
you need a fishing license. But there's also a trout stamp.
Oh, wow, I
If you
didn't know
fish where it says these are trout waters, and that sign over there at the park, and if it says these are stock trout waters, then you have to have a trout stamp with your fishing license.
Is that extra money?
Yeah, it's an extra fee
That's
to pay for it.
I have mixed feelings about all that. So
Well-
a poor person needs to pay to go fishing,
Yeah,
basically.
there's that. The good part of that is that once you buy, like you can get a senior license. Like I think when you're 60, you can get a lifetime license.
Oh, for the rest of your
Yeah.
days.
But if you want to make a profit, you can still make a profit. If you go fish, if you're retired and fish enough, and you like to eat trout, you can put trout on the table, and so
There's no better eating.
there's.
I don't. It might be my favorite thing to eat of all time.
I think it's right up there with the top of mine, for sure.
What are the sides with a good trout?
Whether the size,
The
Sides.
oh,
Well, one thing that you gotta have is some soft white bread with some butter on it, and the whole reason you have that as your side is it helps any stray bones that you might have missed.
Oh,
It helps get if you get a bone in your throat or something, you eat the bite of the bread to get the bone down. Am I
that's
saying
a good,
that right?
That's a good theory. I've never thought of it. I just like bread. Yeah.
How about
But
that?
home fried potatoes
Home fried potatoes.
with onions
Yeah.
is the way you eat, and you have them for breakfast. And you can throw a couple eggs on the side over there, but you don't
I'm
need
getting
it.
wow.
But it's all good.
You
Now,
ever eat
when,
trout?
when you serve a trout, what do you just slice it? Do you flip it open, or how do you serve the meat? Do you
Usually-
pick it out of the skin, or what do you do?
I mean, the family style for us is you fry the whole fish up, and then it's up to the person at the table to pick their bones out. I got pretty good at filleting trout because
So you
Catherine's
cut
not
it
a
from like
fan
the,
of that,
you cut
the
it
whole-
down the middle and flip it open. Is that how you do it, or how do you?
Well, if you're looking at the whole fish on there, normally you would scrape down the spine on its back or whatever to get that hinge open, and then lift up at the tail. It can be one of the most satisfying moments to just get that bone to come out all the way whole. It's almost like a game of Jenga or something. So you can almost play a game with yourself and just really nail it. Scrape away the top bits of flesh, and then grab it by the tail and pull the whole thing out. And you should be holding the entire fish skeleton. There might be a couple of stray bones
Oh,
down in there
wow.
still. That's why you got your soft butter bread on the side. Any
Yeah.
tips that
Sounds like y'all have done
you got
it
any
quite a
tips
bit.
that I missed there?
I think you nailed it pretty good.
It's hard to describe, but it can be very satisfying.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to judge people too, just to stick a whole fish down in front of them. And see
Now, how do
they
you
handle
season it?
themselves.
Except if you don't eat the skin, how's it seasoned? Or is it you don't season it?
Salt and
really?
pepper.
So you do that after?
Oh, he breads it.
Well, I think.
But you don't eat the skin, do you?
Oh,
yeah.
God, yes.
That's the best
Oh,
part.
That's the best part.
No, I
That's,
was thinking you didn't eat the skin.
that's where you put the fry. That's where you put the
You dip it in flour.
flour.
Do you do egg or milk or anything like that?
I used to. I have, but I know how to. But a lot of times I'll just milk and or water and
Just roll it in
just
flour.
roll it in
even.
flour and throw a different, throw some other seasons on there.
No, what a good sized trout, how many people would that feed?
One.
So everybody has to have their own trout?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
I could eat
right.
two.
Oh,
or
and
three.
now you could have a trout this big and could feed a whole family.
What's the biggest trout you ever caught in your life, and where was it?
Oh, I'd say 24 inches at Elkhorn Lake.
Oh wow, in Virginia.
They used to stock what they'd call a stripper, and it was part of that stocking program. But they'd take every truckload. They'd have 3 or 4 of the stripper was the older trout that they kept at the hatchery to lay the eggs.
Interesting.
And so after they were, they'd lay out long enough, and then they'd get rid of them, get new ones in. So they'd put a few of these giant fish in there. So it wasn't like this is a fish that grew up
Right.
in Lake Elkhorn Lake.
Right.
He was in there probably 72 hours ago. He was in a nice little pond in a hatchery. But then he ran into my worm, and getting on a trout that big is pretty impressive.
Oh, it's got to be a great
Pretty
feeling.
amazing.
But does a trout cooked
24
over? Does a
inch
trout
trout.
cooked over a fire in a big old iron skillet taste better than one cooked at home?
Everything cooked in an iron skillet over an open fire tastes better than at home.
Yeah, piece of wood
Yeah.
works pretty good.
Old shoe.
Socks,
Sam.
even a sock. I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
wouldn't think a sock would be that good.
But yeah, if it's
But
in
if
a
you
cast iron over
But
an
if
open
you
flame.
take it out exactly at the right time,
Yeah.
and a little butter.
Man. God, you're making it sound good now.
Silas just shared the good old Taj Mahal's Fishing Blues song in the Discord chat for y'all. After the show, you should all crank that jam up right there. That's a classic.
That is a
Yes, I'm going fishing all the time. Baby, going fishing too. Bet your life, your sweet wife gonna catch more fish than you.
Now, have y'all ever taken a trout and put it inside of a sock so you could have both the sock and the trout? Cooked it.
All right, now you're just being ridiculous.
Yeah, you didn't have to start being
Put the
silly
sock
that
inside
early.
the fish. That's how you're gonna get the best flavor. You gotta crisp the skin.
If you don't want those bones, the sock just takes the bones right there.
That's right. If you don't have bread. But yeah, crispy skin is a
Oh, the
big
skin's
part of it.
my favorite part. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that about fish. A lot salmon, oftentimes people throw away the skin, and it's just because it wasn't prepared right. If you do it wrong, you get something slimy.
Right.
If you do it right, you get this crispy, and it's everything. It's the best part of the meal. You get a nice crispy skin on there, and it's the highest nutrients count in the whole thing. So there's a lot of good reasons to go for the skin. And it's taken me years to be able to guarantee my salmon has crispy skin, because it's always just on the bottom. And it's an afterthought. And a lot of people eat their salmon and leave behind the whole skin at the end. And it's probably because it wasn't made right and was slimy, or they just don't know how delicious it is. But eat the skin, kids.
Skin's good for you.
Skin's good for you. Well, we have a new feature that we do here on the Jabberjawn Show, where each week Dad brings us a new bird to talk about. So, what you got in store for us this week?
Well, I've got a bird that everybody I think has heard of. It's in this book. I'm arguing with it immediately, but this is that book I was telling you about the behavior bird. But I'm talking about the mockingbird.
The mockingbird.
Yeah, everybody's heard of a mockingbird.
A lot of rumors about a mockingbird, a lot of fake news, a lot of myths around a mockingbird.
Share one.
I just feel like everybody. I mean, maybe a lot of them are true. A mockingbird is imitates other bird. Is that how it got its name?
The mockingbird has the ability to impersonate a bird sound or a human sound.
So that's a true.
It's a true thing. The mockingbird has a really interesting ability to sing other birds' songs. And he doesn't have a clear song of his own. He kind of just puts things together.
Interesting.
He's like jazz or something, like creative jazz, where he's creating it as he goes along. But most birds have a set pattern that they're almost born with, and he's different in that way. And that, of course,
So if we were looking at a list of bird songs, and you clicked on each bird to hear its sound, if you clicked on a mockingbird, there'd be no right answer.
It probably wouldn't be one pattern. You're right. Yeah, I don't know what they do with that. But
Now, is that to fit in or for defense, or what's the reason for that?
That's a good question. They're not mocking anybody. They're not emotionally involved or making fun of, so that's kind of silly. But it's almost like they just like to see if they can do it, or they're practicing, or they're showing off, or they're, or they're playing.
Right.
Who knows what combination of those things? Probably a little bit of all those things are going on, but it's like he has a gift and he likes to use it. And
Rich Little.
but it doesn't do him that much good. I mean, there's not a real survival pattern that I can see of his ability to do that, but it's just something he's born with. The mockingbird's got all kinds of interesting characteristics. I want to make sure that everybody.
Are they native to?
They're
Stanton?
native to here. They're native all around the country, I think. I think even out west. Like, this is what I was saying bothered me, is that this says northern mockingbird. Well, we have mockingbirds here, and they're not northern. They're mockingbirds.
Right.
I mean, why do you call?
We don't have southern mockingbirds here?
Well, I don't think there's a definite subspecies there. I don't see that. I see all mockingbirds looking like mockingbirds.
Right.
So for him to call it a northern mockingbird means he's from the north and he named it. And I'm saying I'm from the south and I want to call it a southern mockingbird.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah,
That's my argument with that guy. Whoever named people that name birds were wrong, were weird people. There's so many weird bird names. Titmouse? Come on.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Give me a break. I just can't stand stuff like that. Why do you do that?
At least it's not the northern titmouse.
That would have sent me over the edge. I'm pretty testy these days. But show them a mockingbird.
I'm with you.
Make sure they
Now,
know what we're talking about.
I don't know. I should have asked you this on your first bird. Does a male bird and a female bird, do they have the same call or the same?
No, a lot of times the females don't ever call it once in their life.
Oh, wow.
Or they have a different song completely. But it's the
Wow.
male that's out there talking most of the time. Now, there are exceptions to that, too. Yeah. But let's just talk about this bird right here, because he's very common. You probably have one living in your yard. They're very territorial. your cousin Travis tells a story about for a long time, and even while he was telling the story, every morning when he went to work in Norfolk, he was attacked by a mockingbird.
I remember
And
that
they're
story.
very famous for,
Oh, wow.
for pick. And here's another thing: they can identify people, like crows. I've got a crow that follows me every day. He waits for me, and I can tell. And he follows me, bothers me, calls at me, and well, mockingbirds are the same way. They could identify you as a person and know you.
So Travis was right in thinking that he was being stalked. By
He was
this bird.
that bird was waiting for him
Right.
every day.
There he is.
And
Let's go.
now it starts off with a territorial imperative, that being that the bird is protecting his territory. So, a mockingbird will come in the spring, and you haven't seen them all winter, but then you'll see one fly up into the top of the tree, gray bird, white belly, and then the white on the wings. That's a giveaway every time. And they're flitting around, and there's always just a pair of them. And so every block will have its own. You have a mockingbird that I probably don't have. But if one mockingbird goes into the other one's territory, they go crazy. And then they carry that out into other birds and the people too. So they will attack you if they're nesting. I have a mockingbird now that's looked like he was building a nest the other day, and I was thinking about that if he was going to get territorial with me. He has.
It's almost like you don't want him to nest because it's going to scare away other birds. That you,
Yeah, well,
you
then
might
that's
wanna...
when he might become territorial. Yeah.
And I should just interrupt real quick. Trigger warning, Chad, if you're watching, you might want to step away for a second. It's already too late, but he actually has a phobia of birds. The flapping, if a bird comes close, he
Isn't that interesting?
It's like a spider or a snake to other people. He just must have had a traumatic experience once.
Yeah.
And
You wonder how that evolved, but
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a rough experience with a bird. But I don't know that anybody's ever been hurt by a mockingbird. Let's
Right.
be clear there. They come at you like they're going to peck and they flap and everything, but I don't think they ever tried to eat anybody or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a fun bird to have around, and I've never really been attacked by them personally, so I like them. Couple things that they have. One thing you'll watch if you want to watch if you have mockingbirds. Here's something you probably have noticed. They'll land in the yard, and they'll look around, and then they'll do this with their wings. They'll flip up their wings and do that, and it's really interesting. And why do you think they're doing that?
like to seem tough or to make themselves look bigger? Or
No, it's a good guess.
Gosh. Pull up insects out of the ground.
Very good.
what?
Well,
Wait a
it's not
second.
pull them up out of the ground, but what he's doing, he's got his eye looking at the ground, so he's looking for movement. So if he sees a grasshopper or a worm, he's going to nail it. So he'll look, and then he'll flip real quick, and the animal, if there is anything there, will often react.
Right.
Just a quick little,
Ah.
like if I do that, you blink. If you blink, the mockingbird eats you.
You're right.
Because he's ready, he's trained to see that little movement. So if you watch him, you'll see he'll do that, and then he'll look, and then occasionally he'll do, and a lot of times he'll just keep doing it over and move around, but occasionally you'll see him dive in and grab
Wow.
something, and that's how he gets his food. So stuff like that's really interesting.
That is
to-
interesting.
to watch when you watch your mockingbirds. But
Wow.
they nest a couple times during the season, and they have a much nicer nest than a mourning doves that I was talking about before. But they don't build a great nest, and they'll usually a pine tree or something like that where they can hide their nests. They're pretty good at hiding their nests
Do
away.
they mate for life? Are they one of those birds?
I don't know that for sure. I'm not so sure about that. So I think they do marriage contracts and they get married, but they have a lot of divorces. I think there's a lot of divorcing, and a lot of it has to do with them coming home drunk and singing other birds' songs.
Right.
It's,
Where'd you learn that?
yeah, oh, yeah, I know her.
Coming home drunk.
I know her, and I know what you've been, and I know what you're about.
What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it can get ugly in the mockingbird world, but they're a fine addition to your yard if you like to have them there.
Wow.
Do we have any mockingbirds? Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see them around. You don't have a lot of room, but you'll see them passing through. And you'll see catbirds too. So, but yeah, a lot of times mockingbirds and catbirds are confused because they're both gray.
Yeah, it looks like a catbird.
But the white is what gives the mockingbird
the
away.
white on the wings.
The white on the wing. When he flies, that white wing bar is very obvious to see. So they're easy to identify a mockingbird. So I hope, the thing I'm doing here, when I'm doing this, is like when you are out there, the people, all the people that are listening over the years, and when they see a mockingbird, I want them to think of us, and I think that's nice. That, yeah.
Very nice.
I have former chemistry students that when they fart, they think of me.
Now, how many?
Does that work?
How many types of birds do you think you have in your yard?
In my yard, probably about. Well, I mean.
Or in the neighborhood?
30.
Oh, wow.
Maybe not that many, but if you talk about just flying over, I'd say about 30.
I always think it's so interesting. Like I would go visit Mom's house, which is just the other side of Stanton, and she would have different birds in her yard. I was like, oh, you get those? We've never seen that bird where we live.
Yeah.
But just that short amount of distance, just the way the city works.
It was all about terrain. Her backyard went to a field back there, so she had bluebirds.
And little yellow guys.
These goldfinches, because they're all field birds. They need a lot of room, and they want the field. So, in my house, we don't have any field. So if I see a goldfinch, he's on his way to somewhere else.
Right, lost.
Just stop by, hit the bird feeder for a couple minutes, and he's gone. But he doesn't live there. He's just traveling through.
Are you
And
familiar
mockingbirds are homeboys. They're living here.
Now, are birds related to dinosaurs at all? Were they around during dinosaurs?
Well, birds evolved from the dinosaurs. They're warm-blooded as opposed to, so out of the cold-blooded dinosaurs grew what became the birds.
Oh, wow.
All the different birds. But
So there
they
weren't
all
little
have
birds flitting around the dinosaurs?
There were probably rudimentary birds, where they were just developing feathers. And at some point there probably were, there were probably birds and dinosaurs at the same time. But a lot of the birds didn't look like our birds as much as they looked more like lizards. And
Now, do birds interbreed, or they stick to what?
species don't interbreed. Different species don't interbreed.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
Well, makes sense to me. You don't want to waste.
how do you, like, dogs can interbreed, right?
Yes, because they're all the
All
same
wolves.
genus.
All right.
They're all related to the wolf.
So birds aren't all the same. How does that work?
Oh no, they're all different species.
Oh, wow.
I mean, every one of them's a different species.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
Evolved
that.
in a different.
So completely
Time.
different, or it didn't branch off?
They
each-
branched off, but part of their differences is genetically they are different. They evolved with mutation into different things that didn't recognize each other as being the same. So
Sort of like an ape and a human or something? Like we wouldn't breed with an ape.
or a young boy and a sheep. I'm sorry.
Going back to your biblical stories. You know,
So I don't know if it was like if it's news studies or if it's like really old, but was reading not that long ago about how crows, maybe it's just crows, but are like really way smarter than we ever knew before. Like with problem solving
Oh yeah.
and
The corvids, which would be the crows and the blue jays and mockingbirds are, I don't think they're corvids, but they're up there with the smart ones. But they definitely have a definite intelligence about them that we didn't know about for a long time.
Right.
So we're learning more about how intelligent they are, which is really hard to understand because of the size of their brain. It kind of says, how can you be that smart and that decision-making ability without more gray matter up there?
Right.
That's always mystified me. And then it just seems like some organisms don't need, like everything's developed different things. Like if you're in the water, you develop the ability to swim, and your feet became paddles, and so everybody's different. Every organism's different, but some organisms evidently the crows found that being smarter was an advantage. You know, that whole I don't know. In other words, when you think about, I was thinking about this the other day. When you think about going out like a tribe of Indians out west, Native Americans traveling along in their small tribe from river to river across the country. Well, they always, a lot of times, had wolves following them, and then they had crows following them. And so the crow developed a little bit along with human beings too. And I don't know where that, is that the chicken or the egg? Are they following because they're smart, or smart because they're following? I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit of both. Right. But mainly I think they just are smart enough to figure out that that's a food source. Here we go. If they're going to put that garbage out at night, I'm going to hit it.
Right.
And they followed them all the way across the country, feeding on them. And so we became associated. And then people would get pet crows. You know, a young child would find a baby crow because they were hanging around. So the whole story of crows and wolves and people are intertwined in that way.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Now, blue jays are corvids, but what they developed was being obnoxious, just like that guy at the bar.
Right.
I mean, they're that guy at the bar that's just, why are you here except to be obnoxious?
Just
Now,
loud, overbearing.
Now, there are people out there right now that would say, that's you, Steve. I was that guy, so I know all about that guy.
Takes one to know one.
Oh yeah. I've been that obnoxious drunk at a
now, what is the word you're calling them? They're what?
Corvid, Corvid. It's their family name.
So what is that in terms of species? What is a corvid?
Well, a corvid is the family of birds that includes blue jays and crows and.
How's that determined, or how was it determined originally?
Well, they're related genetically. It's done by chromosomes. They're talking about how they're related in terms of chromosomal patterns and genetic mutation and all that.
So
their DNA profile is similar.
So you're saying a blue jay is a corvid?
Yeah.
Is a cardinal?
No.
So how could a cardinal, because the cardinal and the blue jay both have identical silhouettes.
That's just a coincidence.
Is it?
Yeah.
Can you walk me through that a little bit?
Well, I don't know. The only thing that you're noticing is the top knot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's several birds in different countries that have top knots, so that aren't related. So the top knot could just evolve as a separate mutation from a different direction. So you could have, well, some woodpeckers have top knots, but they lay it down a lot of times. I think the pileated woodpecker, you could say, has a top knot. But he can lay his down, but he can push it up when he, and the whole idea probably of the top knot is to make them look bigger so that they look stronger and not eatable or whatever. But it's all for good, it's all for looks. And it's just another, way of looking better to other birds or to try to impress somebody.
Now, what's a parrot? Like the birds that can talk and say stuff like that. What are they?
I don't know the name of the family, and we don't have that, that family in this area. But I don't know what they are.
Well, that's still a bird, isn't
They're,
it?
oh yeah, parakeets and parrots, and those are all another bird that has learned to use their. I mean, it's just a question of how you use your vocal cords. Some birds have a set song, and the mockingbird has a different. He's got a.
So is a parrot sort of like a mockingbird that I can learn different things and say different things?
Right. It's just like, and I don't know how, it obviously has to do with intelligence in terms of the mockingbird and the corvids, because they do mention here that the mockingbird can recognize up to 150 different songs.
Wow.
At a time. He can, in other words, he could know if you sang a song and walked through the park every day, he could recognize you visually and recognize that you were going to sing that song. Or he could hear that song and then put you with that song.
I wonder how they know that.
Well, it's their brain. They can think.
Now, how does the scientist observe that in the mockingbird?
Oh, I don't know.
Right.
That's always a good question.
Right.
How do you know? How do they, because there was somebody that evidently got their doctorate in mockingbird talking.
Right.
Probably more than one. But yeah, there's a lot of, I always think about stuff like that, about science and like, who proved that?
Right.
And then a lot of stuff they're saying these days can't be proved. And they say it like it's a scientific fact on the news at night. Drives me crazy. There's no way you can verify that.
Right.
But you said it. You acted like it's a fact. And it's just true in that.
Say it with authority.
It's true in that moment, but it might not be true tomorrow.
We discussed this earlier. What do y'all say? What was that thing where it's a fact that you can't prove? Y'all had a word for it, or like episode 2 or 3.
What was it now?
It's like a fact that you can't prove, like no two snowflakes are the same. Y'all had a word for it that you knew that.
Oh, I don't remember.
Making me look like a liar sitting here.
So are there, here's a question for you. Do you, any of you, know where the phrase, what's the meaning of the phrase "to kill a mockingbird"? Which, by the way, I think is the most popular book ever written. Harper Lee did something amazing there. Because it's one thing to read a book, but you'd be surprised how many people's lives were changed by reading "To Kill a Mockingbird." It's many people's most memorable reading that they've ever done. I just made that up.
But you said it with authority.
Just-
and
I
I
said it
believed
with authority, and I meant it.
So I don't know how that phrase
I would
goes.
take it just from the title to mean to stop people that are saying bad things or not believe the hype or the rumors.
Well, what's it mean when you say "to kill a mockingbird"?
To stop the rumors, to stop the bad talk,
Well, what's bad about killing a mockingbird?
because a mockingbird's just repeating what they've heard. They're not telling the truth. They're just repeating things that they've heard.
To kill a mockingbird.
I'm just guessing. I don't know.
I disagree with you. And this is the first time that I have really ever disagreed.
True. That's true.
Goodbye.
We went 20 episodes. But
Mark
Out.
it down.
You're gone.
Drum roll, please, as I walk out
There's
the
a
door.
sound effect for that.
Bring in the next one. You did good, but I'm sorry.
Hit the A sharp there.
Is there a door slamming sound as I go towards the 5? And don't forget you owe us $18,000.
It's a sad trombone. That was it. You nailed it. So what's the answer?
Well, I don't know. I was going to Google it, and I'm sure
Well, we'll
somebody
see
will.
what
Well,
what
all right,
Percy
here's
kno-
what I
we'll see
here's
what
what I
Percy
think.
says
I
in the
think
chat
it's
here.
I think it's in the South. It's bad luck to kill a mockingbird.
Oh,
But why is it bad luck and all that? And that your theory might work there. But I would think that yeah, I don't know, but I think I can see where people would want to kill them, like Travis wanted to kill that
Right.
bird that was attacking him.
Because they're territorial.
So there's the territorial thing would be the one reason you might want to kill one. But and evidently people would kill one and then they had a bad
Oh,
thing
wow.
happen. So I think it just got to be a bad luck thing.
But Danny Moore says destroy innocence is what.
Exactly, and that's Danny. That's what I did when I Googled it. It said in the book, the quote was from Scout or someone. But Scout, I think, says that you should never kill a mockingbird. To kill a mockingbird is to kill innocence. And that's all it said in the novel itself. But it's almost like if you kill a mockingbird, you're killing an innocent thing.
wow.
So it's
According to Percy here in our Discord chat, he says, in the book, the character Atticus Finch explains that mockingbirds are innocent creatures that do nothing but sing and bring joy to people. So killing one would be an act of pointless cruelty against something innocent and harmless. Therefore, to kill a mockingbird metaphorically means to harm or destroy innocence, purity, or goodness.
that's what I hear.
Good work, chat, too.
Very
you guys,
good. Yeah, that's
collectively, we know a thing or two about a thing or two.
Yeah. Now I've also, through our discussion earlier, disproved what he just said, because we have established that there can be a reason why you might want to kill a mockingbird.
Right.
But
Because,
that's an interesting answer to what he's arguing.
mm-hmm.
And the problem is no one is going to ever argue with Atticus Finch.
Right.
Not going to happen in this country.
Not with a name like that.
Atticus Finch.
That's a
What
good
a
name.
great character. Gregory Peck. My goodness. Nailed it.
Now, is that still required reading, do you know, in high schools? And is that junior high or is that high school?
I don't think you can read it in Florida.
Right.
But
Are there required reading? I don't think we require reading anymore.
No, well, no, that went out last year.
Read a book, forget it. We're going out to kill mockingbirds. Let's go.
That's right. Right.
If a mockingbird's different than me, I'm going to kill it.
So there. Any other questions about mockingbirds? But they're a wonderful bird. They're characters. They have personality.
Mm-hmm. I'll definitely be keeping my eye out.
Yeah. Oh, here's the other thing. Here's another reason you want to kill them. They are the only one. If you hear a bird singing at night, 99 times out of 100, it's a mockingbird.
Ah,
Mockingbirds will sing
are
at
they
night.
nocturnal?
No, they just wake up and can't go to sleep,
Just start
and
singing.
they just start singing just for the hell of it. Or they might say,
Coming back from that lady's house
Nathan's just
drunk.
trying to get to sleep. I'm gonna wake him up. But yeah, they sing at night.
What was that sign, producer?
What?
Oh, I saw the numbers.
I can't read anything.
Ah,
What's that?
Margie's in the chat. Hey, Margie. Sorry, I couldn't say. I saw the 825.
Well, talking about great books, my friend that I told you sent me books. This book is called 20th Century American Nicknames. And this is the most confusing book I've ever. I thought it'd be like, if your name was Charles, they call you Chuck or something. Take a look at this book. What purpose that book has
Look
besides
how big it is. Margie was laughing in the chat about how you made it 20 episodes. Bye, Kyle. Big 20th episode gets the boot.
American nicknames that you would think, I thought was, if your name was Steven, they would call you Steve.
Right.
If I was Kyle, they'd call me, K-Dog or something. This is just like some weird. This is the most worthless book I've ever seen in my entire life.
So let's see what we got here. It's all.
If you can figure out rhyme or reason to it, please let the people know.
All right. Let's go to Kyle. Have you done this already?
I looked at like 3 pages and couldn't figure it out, so I threw it on the ground and said, "This will be perfect for the show."
Kyle's not even in here.
Just read the one. It's like none of them make any sense.
Let's go to Steve.
Well, it's not that type of book.
It's not really that type of book.
That's what I thought it was, but it's just like they'll say, Stanton, the Queen City, or something. It's like, how do you even look up this stupid stuff in here?
This is a very strange book.
You're not sharing anything. Okay?
I'm trying to get
Dead
to
time.
Steve.
The thing
We're on the air.
Dead air.
But the thing is, he's not sharing it because none of it's interesting. That's the same thing. I was trying to find one that held my attention. I was like, somebody put that whole book together and not even one page has anything interesting.
Oh my God.
It is very strange. Steel King, Carnegie, Andrew. Steel State, Pennsylvania. Steiny, Steinmetz, Stern. What is this book? There you go.
Isn't that the weirdest?
Try to figure out what that book is.
If you want to borrow it, you can.
You look at the cover, you're like, right, I'm with you 100%. What is going on in this book?
Well, it tells you right here.
Discard.
Never checked out. Discard.
Well, I just turned it, yeah.
Good to see you, Danny. Thanks for stopping by the show. I saw a King Pip when I was flipping through, but then I lost it.
Do you see anything that makes any sense in there?
So far, all of these make sense.
Read the ones. What are you reading?
I said Black Widow, nighttime fighting plane, World War II. That sounds interesting.
But why would you look that up in a book? What do they call fighting planes in World War II? I mean, you would have to know the name to know what you're looking for.
Right, and it's not just nicknames of people.
Yeah, it's like.
Oh, it's not nicknames of people. It's a Black Dahlia was on Jeopardy. I heard that on Jeopardy, and it was Elizabeth Short. Yeah, I could use this. Good stuff. The Black Bears are the athletic teams of the University of Maine. I love this. This is my favorite book.
You can have that for your bathroom.
Oh my God. Well, the Black Ralph Nader was Philip Sims. I had no idea there was a Black Ralph Nader. I love that.
But so
Ralph Nader was so white. Do you remember him? Good Lord.
Seatbelts.
And I never knew the whole time that there was a black one. I'm going to go talk to Philip Sims. No, this is wonderful. Thank you.
You should have seen when you should have seen when Ralph Nader got invited to the Apollo.
Yeah. Well, thank God Philip Sims went. A false explorer.
False explorer.
Frederick Albert Cook.
book is like total nonsense.
I'd love that. Yeah, I
Like, well,
remember,
I made it in a
remember
book.
James Cook, but do you remember the false explorer? That was his little brother who went years later, Frederick. Frederick Albert Cook was the false explorer. Woo. Well, I could get lost in this book.
Oh my God! Like you need to get stoned to read that book. You have to like your mind has to be totally open to even understand who would compile that even.
So somebody found that and sent it to you in the mail?
Yeah, my friend that works, she's the archivist in New Jersey. When they throw books away that nobody wants, she'll just go, Kyle will find this interesting and send it to me.
Well, I'll have to say that I think you could get a whole lot of information from this book if you would just bear down
Yeah,
and
you gotta be
read.
patient.
Just start reading.
She sent me a book. Somebody went through all the Charles Dickens novels and wrote down every tavern and hotel and restaurant and tried to figure out if they were real. It's this book thicker than that. It's just called The Inns and Taverns of Charles Dickens.
And were most of them real?
Yeah, they've figured out.
Pip did something.
The cats are striking again. Here we go. See, that's why you're not supposed to be down here, Pip.
But I admire the dedication that somebody did to put that they got more than one page and said this is useless and just threw it to the side.
This had to take most of somebody's life.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It really did.
Didn't it? And I don't know if it was one person or you could write in and
Well, that's a lot of data there. Wonder where he found all that.
And a lot of these aren't even nicknames. It's just
No.
somebody's actual name and like
Right.
it's Albert Kahn, architect, world's #1 industrial architect. 20th century American nicknames? No nickname.
Yeah.
Eddie Kahn, football player. King Kong Khan. Legal name Edwin Bernard Kahn. This is pretty junior. Junebug. You remember who was referred to as Junebug?
Nope.
Oh, yeah, well, that's Curtis Biplane, 1906. All right, this book is evil.
well, the problem is the nicknames don't make any sense and nobody knows who any of the real people are anyway.
Right. That is a very strange endeavor that whoever that is
God.
undertook, and it got published.
I know.
And let me see that here. Let me see one more thing. I want to check the beginning here.
Is it
Oh, I
about
wonder if it does it have a foreword. Oh, it does. All right. The nicknames that fill the following pages are of great interest from many different points of view.
That's exactly right.
The
That's what I
linguist
was
studies them because he is concerned with all kinds of word creation. The dictionary maker collects them and defines them because they have a legitimate referential meaning. The sociologist is concerned with the reasons for nicknaming, the psychologist with personal reactions to them. As for the journalist, he finds nicknames interesting because of the anecdotes that are often associated with them.
Wow.
Unfortunately, perhaps, it is not a display of wit or imagination in itself that justifies an entry in a dictionary of nicknames. A particular nickname only comes to have the referential meaning I mentioned above when it is widely enough used. The vast majority of nicknames are known and used in highly restricted contexts. Pupils at most schools, for instance, can refer to classmates and teachers among themselves by using nicknames that would be meaningless to an outsider. Any social group that meets regularly may have its own internal naming system. Indeed, knowledge of that system may become a sign of inclusion in the group, a kind of verbal membership badge. Nicknames, along with certain slang expressions, often help to create a private language that excludes strangers.
Man.
Pretty
Yep.
fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. That's well said. There's a
And
lot
it's-
there.
And then it's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
But, all right, so what is this entry? All right, here's the whole entry. Expatriate American poet in bold print, Ezra Pound.
Is that his nickname?
That's not a nickname. What is going on with this?
Look up Little Dick. I got him. All right. Whee! I think I got a double.
The whole book just makes no sense.
I think I even got the producer giggling. We're going. I'm on a roll.
So it's like if you want to know if Abraham Lincoln had nicknames, you'd have to know the nickname to look it up. You can't even look up Abraham Lincoln.
Right. They ought to have the alphabetical by the name.
Right. There is no Little Dick, but there is Little Dixie. Little Dixie, Missouri, southeastern part of Oklahoma.
There you go.
Wait a minute, Missouri, the state, is the south, is it, or that's the town or something?
That's what it says. Little Doc Severinsen.
I never heard that. Little Doc.
Little Doctor, Walter E. Meanwell. Dr. Meanwell. I would not want an appointment with him tomorrow. Well, he meant well.
What's your intention?
Where do you think Little Eden is?
South
You
of
should
Eden.
know this. Little Eden. Hoboken, New Jersey.
Barbara Eden.
Hoboken. Little Egypt is a region around Cairo, Illinois.
That makes sense.
Little Eva, William Alexander Lang.
What? What?
Man.
Little Eva did the locomotion.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wait a minute. So what? So what was the guy's name? Little Eva. What's his name?
William Alexander Lang.
How did it even get that? There should be an explanation of how he got the name.
Something. Anything.
I think that's in volume 2.
Right. You have to get the annotated version. Little Dudley, jazz pianist, band leader and singer. Big Tiny. I don't know. That's a pretty interesting dive there. So before, maybe this is too big of a topic to bring up so close to the end of the show, but I'm remembering that a couple weeks ago there was a question in the chat that was like a 2-part question, and we sort of focused on one part of the question and not on the first part of the question, which was asking us about the origin of the universe. And now one thing I've always thought was pretty interesting about the origin of the universe is we always talk about how there's a sort of split between people of faith and people of science, and how science and religion have always sort of been at odds. But it seems like when it comes to the question of the origin of the universe, the best scientists have been able to come up with as the prevailing standard theory of the origin of the universe and the Big Bang was that at one point there was nothing, and the entire universe burst out of an instance of nothingness to become the universe, which seems to be science admitting that there was this moment of creation of the universe where it burst out of nothing. Do you have any scientific insight?
Where does that go?
I mean, what's up with that?
Scientific or religious?
Well, it
view
just
on
is.
that?
It's just an area that we don't know anything about, and so we're free to make up what we want to make up, and the scientists are just as free as the preachers. You know, we can all make up our own idea. I think that's somewhat discomforting, especially for scientific minds, but it's also very good maybe that we don't know, that there's, you know, the whole thing about it is that there's a whole lot of mystery about being a human being, in terms of, you know, why we're here, what we're doing, what's going on, and, you know, looking around at all the other life forms, and then looking at the astronomy and the stars and trying to figure out all that stuff. And it's wide open. I mean, we're learning more all the time about the universe. And but I don't know that we'll ever have any real answer to that question. And I think maybe that's good. That might be the you know, I think you could, one thing you could come up with is that when you talked about that point in time, people have I have no ability to conceive of that, how this world could come out of nothing. I don't get that. That doesn't work for me. But it also opens the door to different interpretations of that. So it could happen more than once. It didn't happen maybe just once, maybe it happens over and over again. I kind of have gotten the idea that the whole thing that we're doing here is an experiment that's ongoing as time goes on, and we're making changes. Like, we see the world is so screwed up today, with all the different hate and things that we see in America and everything. But, in terms of passages, this probably is the learning that we need to do to develop into the next level. So we're not stuck here. We are just here now.
Right.
And I think wise men all along have seen that and tried to help you go along and figure it out as we go. But, to have all the answers now not only is impossible, but it's probably a good thing. I think it's fun. I was thinking the other day how much fun it is to be alive, because there's so much more to know than we'll ever know in your lifetime, and how nice that is. Because I think a lot of birds and other animals that we're sharing the planet with don't think that way. They think they've got a pattern. They know how they live, and they live that life, which is easier for them. I mean, being a human being is not an easy task unless we act like an animal and don't think about stuff. But if you start thinking about stuff, it gets to be interesting. Really hard sometimes for all of us. But I think we see, I see goodness, or whatever word I don't have right now. I see it to be a good thing, that there are things we'll never know. And I'll never have the answer to it all. And I enjoy the mystery of it.
Right.
No, I agree with the experiment, what you were saying, like this whole thing. But do you think it's just us involved in the experiment, or there's something experimenting with us? Something viewing us as an experiment, or we're just an experiment ourselves, unsupervised experience?
I think it's very possible that there are experiments going on all over the place. When the scientists start saying that's a galaxy out there, and that's a whole bunch of galaxies, well, a galaxy's got a lot of planets in it. I mean, it's full of stars, and those stars, in other words, this is happening all over the place in the universe.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of like, watching it. Now, there could be a God form that's sitting around watching all that happen, and, that's the God up in the sky watching it. And who knows? I don't know. That's not possible, but it's not necessary. But,
Well, that's what you just said. I've never even considered that. When I consider the experiment, I think of us. But you did open up a great point. We could just be like, Exhibit A, and there's A through Z, different experiments going on.
Well, you see that in our history of this planet, how different cultures, when you go back, we don't have the ability to study them all, but if you studied the Aztecs and the Incas and all these different cultures in the Mideast that had, they had civilizations, and they had a way of doing things, and there were reasons why they didn't survive. Most of them had to do with killing mockingbirds.
Right.
Really, think about it. They didn't respect.
Right.
They thought power and the ability to kill their enemy was was what all you had to do.
That's true.
And it never works that way.
Mm-hmm.
The farmers end up winning
Mm-hmm.
because they can eat dinner and you can't.
That's sort of ties in. I was watching something. They were like, people go like to therapy or psychiatrist, whatever. Like, I want to be happy, and people have to. They said people have to realize the goal is not to make yourself happy. If you make other people happy, you become happy. People need to stop focusing on making themselves happy. Like, instead of me sitting here thinking, I got to make myself happy, if I can make all three of y'all happy and people watching happy, eventually that all comes around to you. It's sort of the same thing like you said. It's not that you have all the power, not that you're killing everybody. If you can make everybody around you better, the world becomes better.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to feel.
Yeah.
That's a positive way in which we could move toward where we need to be.
It's I don't know if there's anything wiser than that piece of wisdom right there. It's helping others to help yourself is quite a healthy revelation.
Well, and the opposite side of that are the people that believe you win by taking.
Mm-hmm.
And you take what you want and you decide what you want. But there is, I think, always going to be a certain emptiness there.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the ability to see it as what that is. And it's a losing process, but people don't get it in their own lifetime. It's hard for them to see it until sometimes it's too late.
Right.
But yeah.
According to our producer, we've done it again.
20 times.
We've done it again.
What did we do?
We completed another episode of
Without doing
Jabberjaw.
a song.
And now I'm sure he's got a song that ties in so perfectly
Oh,
well.
I don't know about that. I haven't even thought about it. I feel like we're a long ways from like a cartoon.
Is there a song with a mockingbird in it? Or I'll tell you what, just do a song in someone else's voice.
So glad the world can't hear my thoughts. Oh, if the world could hear my thoughts, from this world I'd likely be shot like a cannonball. I leave the light on, yes I do. Climb up to where I love the view. Sometimes the dark comes shining through like a cannonball.
It's about you, Percy.
The cuckoo bird is not the best. Watch it rob the robin's nest. Watch you swallow the swallow's eggs. Such a sweet song. And I would never think to judge. There's nothing evil in a flood. Don't worry, I forgive you, bud. Such a sweet song. Everything there is a time. For every justice there's a crime. We might not see, we might not shine, someone will. And when you fall down in a hole, you don't care who drops the rope. All you can do is holler and hope someone will.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Holler and hope.
See you next week. Episode 21. Oh,
Love ya.
we'll be able to drink.
That's right. We're gonna be all tanked up next week.